Hey fellow settlers of a fantasy land, it's me, Mario. And today we're gonna talk about Terra Nova, like a lesser brother to Age of Innovation, Terra Mystica, and Gaia Project, but a game that I like more than Age of Innovation for sure, and just a bit behind Terra Mystica and Gaia Project probably. It's a game that it's different enough from these other games that I feel like it's a good idea to make a video of it, and then I'm gonna make a video of each of the different factions. I don't know how many people are interested in Terra Nova, but to me, it was so much fun. So the first time I played it, I didn't have high expectation. It felt like the game was on rails. I didn't have any true choices, so I just forgot about it for a while. Then I played it at a friend's house, and he showed me a bit of the tricks that you can do with it. And I didn't fall in love yet with it, but I tried to play it online a bit more, and then I fell in love with it. One of the main reasons is that it's so darn fast. In 3 or 4 players, it's gonna take about an hour, I would say, to finish a game, which is way, way, way faster than both Terra Mystica and especially faster than Gaia Project. And it gives a similar vibe. So, I mean, this is like a short review of why I like it, but let's delve deep into it and how to win. I got a decent elo on it. I think I'm like in the top 10 or something, so I think I'm entitled to talk a bit about it. There's not really a competitive scene as there's in Terra Mystica, so that's why you don't see people at like, or maybe there's somebody at like 600 elo or something, but that's because they play 2 players a lot. As always, I focus on 3 players and 4 player games, but I'm gonna talk quickly about lower player count, 2p, at the end of the video. Let's start off by saying that this is like Terra Mystica Lite with a very different balance to it. The relationships between economy and scoring is way, way, way more fluid than in both Terra Mystica and Gaia Project and Age of Innovation, I guess. And that's because you can focus on scoring right at the start. Why is that? Well, the first reason is that the game is played on 5 rounds instead of 6, so you got less time to milk your economy for points in the late game. And the second thing is that you actually don't have many ways to score in this game. Yes, some factions, but not many of them, have little side scoring mechanics to them, but they are not as relevant as like the Darklings in Terra Mystica or the Engineers in Terra Mystica when you go for bridges or things like that. So mostly you focus on a few things right off the bat. And the third reason is that you get, let's see if I can see a faction. Yes, I can. You have diminishing returns on your houses. So in Terra Mystica, all of the houses give you 1 worker as a reward. It doesn't matter if it's the 6th house or if it's the first one, unless you're engineers. Only the last one is a blank. In Terra Nova, you have diminishing returns. Right now, I chose a faction that doesn't have actually big diminishing returns, but let's pick, for example, Water Sprites. They have like a hole over here and then just power. Let's select another one, which might be even worse. Well, Sand Cats are actually a bit worse, but Druids, I mean, all of them normally have like 3 coins in income, and then they start giving you less and less. So spamming out houses is not as good as it is in Terra Mystica. So there is a real tension right at the start between having a strong economy and securing good positions on the board. While in Terra Mystica you do both at the same time, basically, because houses, dwellings, are one of the best economical buildings at the start of the game. Here it's not like that, so if you spam too many of them, you will not get good rewards out of them. So it's just better to upgrade them, especially for some factions like Druids and Fairies, for example. You actively want to upgrade structure to TPs, which is definitely not the case in Terra Mystica. In Terra Mystica, TPs are very bad. Oh, another difference you might notice over here is that you don't have temples. That's because you don't have cults at all in this game. You cannot burn power. That's another small but not so small difference. You only have coins and power as a resource, and you have 5 terrains instead of the 7 you're used to. This will wrap up I guess, the biggest differences between Terra Nova and Terra Mystica. So the balance is pretty different, and you have already a strong tension at the start between economy, board position, and scoring, which is, in my opinion, very interesting. How do you score in this game? Well, the best way to score in Terra Nova are round boosters. Round boosters give you a lot of points, way more percentage-wise than in Terra Mystica. So you really have to study them and know them well. Then you get them from the round bony, of course. Then from cities, from the network at the end of the game, from leftovers. This is actually way more relevant here than it is in Terra Mystica once again. And then you have some other faction-specific mechanics, which are, again, normally even less relevant than leftovers. So, I've already said that at the start you have big decisions to make, so you have to study a lot the round bony to see which game you're gonna play. Basically, in my opinion, you have to know right at the start if you're gonna play a strong economical game or a scoring right off the bat game. Most of the time, the second part is a bit better. You still need to build up some kind of economy, but it's very hard to snowball and explode in the late game in Terra Nova. So I would say that most of the time you have to think about scoring right at the start. Depending on the player count, this is pretty important. If you're playing in 4P, it's also very important to establish a strong board position right at the start. So you're going to see players rushing to build houses right at the start. That's also because in this game, compared to Terra Mystica, it's quite common to dig for 6 coins and 12 coins for the simple reason that you cannot upgrade spades. So it's always gonna cost you 6 coins for 1 spade and 12 coins for 2 spades. And there are only 2 power action over here, and there are only like 2 factions that can have their own ways to transform the terrains. So at the start of the game, normally you already think about scoring and about board position. You can build up the economy. It depends if you can explode or not. Like in this game, it's very hard to explode in the late game just because you have big buildings. Big buildings as the last round bonus is pretty bad. It's already pretty bad in Terra Mystica. And I would say that it's even worse in Terra Nova. Terra Nova, these buildings are very expensive, and most of the time if you build them, you want to build them early-ish for most factions. It depends, of course, on some factions. So the last round big buildings is pretty stinky. Also, you get 2 rounds in a row with TPs, which means that it's quite hard to exploit them at their fullest. So it's not a bad game to play economically, but it's not an awesome one. I would say that the games that are best to be played, starting with a strong economy, are the ones that end with the city scoring, just because you can set up something like 3 cities. 3 cities, by the way, are pretty hard in Terra Nova. You can win with 0 cities, which is, again, in my experience, a big difference from Terra Mystica. It happens way more often that you can win with 0 or 1 city in Terra Nova compared to what you can do in Terra Mystica. So I would say that's already a big part of what we're gonna discuss about. So economy is not as strong, board position and scoring are way more important. Other ways you should know is that each faction has a preferred plan. Not all of them. Some of them are pretty versatile, which is why you see them taken all the time online, which are sun worshippers, which are like nomads, but with a way better yellow setup on the map, and leprechauns, which are a very strong economical faction with better rewards in every single line, basically. Some other factions are a bit more niche, like sandcats, water sprites. Inventors suck most of the time, but they can have their own games. It's just that some factions are really rigid, so you really need the round bony to cooperate with them, and also you need not to be in 4P. In my opinion, the best player count for Terra Nova is 3P. The map can be too crowded, and some faction might not have the time to shine on too crowded maps. So, in my opinion, 3P is the best player count. So different factions have different plans, different player counts require you to have different plans. I think something that needs to be discussed are power actions. Like, at first I was like, what do you need power when you have one kind of resource? Like, everything can be converted into coins, so why do you need power? I mean, this power action must be pretty boring. It's just another way to get coins. It is true in some way. They are a bit less interesting in my opinion than in both Terra Mystica and Gaia Project and Age of Innovation. But there's something to them that still makes them interesting. An easy thing to notice is bridges. There are 2 slots for bridges, which is why you're gonna see way more bridges built in Terra Nova than they are in Terra Mystica. And the first who get the action will get better returns, of course. This is the best single action if you really need a bridge, because a bridge is 10 coins, which is something you should never ever do unless you're sure you're gonna win because of it. So these 2 actions are easy to spot. If you need a bridge, you're gonna take them. But these 3 actions are, in my opinion, the most interesting ones. They cost the same amount of power, and they have like 1 coin in difference between them. So this one is equivalent to 8 coins, which is the cost to advance shipping. This one is straight up 7 coins, and this one is 6 coins because of the spade it's gonna act like. So there's 1 coin difference, but it's very interesting because this little difference matters a lot, but it doesn't matter as much as the timing. Like, getting 7 coins is the catch-all, is an action you're gonna see taken first in a round most of the time. The thing is, you need an action to secure the 7 coins and then an action to use the spade if you effectively want to gain 1 coin over the spade action. And that's very relevant because in this game, I've already discussed that board position and scoring, thanks to boosters, are way more relevant than in Terra Mystica. So having 1 more turn can matter a lot. You really need to be sure of what you're doing if you're taking this action, because you might want to pass early to secure a booster, and then taking 1 more turn, it's not that good for you. It's way better to take a spade. Or you really want to secure an X, so you want a spade right off the bat. And the same can be said for the advanced shipping. It's faster than the 7 coins, of course, but sometimes you want to delay a bit because you really want a booster somebody else has taken. So even if there is a small economical difference between these actions, it makes it so that if you need shipping, you pretty much always want to take this one before this one. And if you want a spade, you would like to get this one above this one. But the timing is so relevant that many times you're gonna take choices that doesn't make sense from an economical point of view, but make a lot of sense from a timing point of view to secure board position and to secure a good booster. So I've seen a lot of players complaining about these 3 actions basically being the same, but the more you play, the more you understand that the timing is more relevant to them. And of course, this double spade is always pretty relevant, but again, since a lot of players are incentivized to dig with coins straight up, as opposed to Terra Mystica, where you see players using spades in other ways, it might be that you're getting 2 hexes and one of them gets stolen. So you have to be really, really careful and really sure you're gonna have 2 hexes when you take these actions. I would say that's already all. I mean, the game doesn't pretend to be as deep as its bigger brothers, so I'm not saying that Terra Nova is better than Terra Mystica on Gaia Project. I'm just saying that for a game that is so fast, that plays in 3P in less than an hour always, normally 45 minutes, so 15 minutes per player, I would say it's the average. So in 2P, it can be even 20 minutes if both players are very experienced. The game has an outstanding depth to it. For the amount of time it requires. It's crazy. Also, it's always very interesting because like Terra Mystica, you have to study all the factions, you have to study the start of the game to see what plan might work best, but then you have to adapt a lot to what your opponents are doing, where they are building, why they are building over there. You're gonna start seeing some places where players are gonna fight most of the time. Some colors have some places where they can cooperate and some places where they fight. So there's a lot of experience to begin in this game, and I can just recommend it with all of myself. So that's all I'm saying for today. And we're gonna dive deep into the factions. Hopefully it's another cycle that I will be able to finish instead of leave it hanging for years and years. But we'll see. As of now, I'm keeping up with my promise of making one small video per week. Let's see if I can keep up to it. Alright, that's it for Terra Nova. If you want me to, again, say more about the game, show some games that I played, show some replays and things like that, just tell me in the comments and I will try to oblige. Alright, thanks a lot for sticking with me. See you next time. Mario's out. Bye-bye.